Good morning, everybody, and welcome in. Happy Tuesday. We are going to give you guys a couple minutes to file in, but in the meantime, I would love to hear where everybody is calling in from this morning. So if you want to utilize the chat bar on the right-hand side, that is your space to chat with us. I'm calling in from San Diego. It's nice and warm and sunny and 67. I know Sage is not experiencing that type of weather right now in Brooklyn, but
Right. Yeah, don't let Nancy's background fool you. There's a blizzard outside my apartment. I walked around outside just because I'm from Miami originally, and I'm like, I have to walk outside in the snow. Like, you can't even see the car's windows because it's covered in snow, and my
yeah.
boots just sink right into. They sink deeper than it even looks, but yeah, staying warm inside the apartment.
Yeah.
Everybody always asks if this is a fake background.
A
I'm
fake
like, no,
background, right?
I actually live in Mexico during tax season every year. I'm here from January through April, and this is literally my backyard right now. Every once in a while, when I'm giving a webinar or presentation, somebody will say in the chat, oh, I can hear the birds in the background. It's so nice. And I'm
There
like,
you go.
yeah.
I know there's that virtual background of like the trees moving in the background that you can use on Zoom, but you don't need that because
Yeah.
Sneaky.
that's just
It
where you are, that's
literally
just where
looks
you
like
are.
this. But
Yeah,
hey,
that's
I
just where
did
you are.
way more than 20 tax seasons in Chicago. So I have earned my
Oh,
my
absolutely.
winter cred for sure.
Yeah.
South
Absolutely.
Dakota, Kentucky, Terry's here from New Jersey. I see some Ask a CPA folks and some bookkeeping buds in the chat. Hey y'all.
Awesome. Well, it is 10:02, so I am going to get us started because I want to make sure that we have ample time for questions at the end. But welcome to your Post-1099 season reset. We're so excited to have you here, and you guys are in great hands with Nancy and Sage, both 1099 pros. So this webinar obviously is very intentionally happening after 1099 season. The goal is just to help you as firms reflect on how this season just went, what happened, where the pain points may have been, because the pain that you may have just felt is diagnostic. So we want to spend these next 10 months setting up.
I gotta interrupt you already. That is genius. The pain you just felt is diagnostic. That is so perfect.
Once you can figure out what went wrong, like very quickly after you feel the fire, you're like, okay, I want to make sure this never happens again. And yeah, you can really analyze what went wrong and how to fix it. And you have 10 months to do that before the next busy season for 1099s. So one of the things that we came up with as a tagline for this campaign here is boring Januaries are built today. So February 24th, 2026, we're setting you up for next January.
That sounds like heaven. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I'm not a person who's easily bored, but I'm telling you, like, a boring January just sounds delicious.
In
Yeah.
the right way. The right way,
Yeah,
boring.
in the right way.
Exactly.
We also found this mnemonic, which Nancy and I were giggling about, so I'm just going to read it out because it just deserves to be read aloud. 30 days hath September, April, June, and November, unless a leap year is its fate, February hath 28. All the rest hath 3 days more, excepting January, which hath 6,184, which I feel like is just so, we can all relate. So,
Longest month ever. And I'm a
ever.
tax accountant. You would think it would be March, but no, January's longer than March.
It's
There
January.
you go.
Yep.
I'm gonna
Okay.
have to start saying hath in my emails.
I know, it's very, we love it. All right, so quick rundown of the agenda, and then I'll just quickly talk about the housekeeping items. So I'll let these lovely individuals introduce themselves right after this slide. We'll do a little 1099 season postmortem. We'll talk about some resources for W-9 and 1099 management. We'll also talk about creating those good 1099 related habits throughout the year. And then we'll highlight how you can unlock a smooth 1099 season now using Double. And then we'll get to some Q&A at the end. As far as housekeeping goes, this is being recorded. This will be posted to our YouTube channel as well as sent to you right after the session, along with some resources that we go over today. And I think that covers it. So without further ado, I will let Nancy start with the intros and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Maddie. I just love working with you. You are such a delight. I mean, Sage, I probably love working with you too, but you're kind of new to me. So
Yeah, I get it.
This
I
is
won't take
like
that
jury's
personally.
out. Jury's
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Nancy. I know so many of the people in chat that I'm like wondering if I even need to introduce myself here, but just in case there's somebody here that I haven't met yet. My name's Nancy, but most people know me better as the Dancing Accountant because that's the name of my CPA firm that I have run this year. We will be celebrating our 25th anniversary. It's a hyper local firm in my neighborhood. Thank you. Of Logan Square, Chicago, and we only work with small businesses, and we only work with small businesses from our neighborhood and the surrounding 3 neighborhoods. So extremely local, but we have a team that's all over the United States, and so we've actually, even though we're a hyper local firm, we are also 100% remote. Top 50 women in accounting, lots of very cool awards and blah, blah, blah. But the 2 things I am most excited about are that I run Ask a CPA, and I see we've got quite a few members in the chat. Hey, y'all, thank you for being here. Which is a community for bookkeepers. And so this is for bookkeepers who have questions they would love to ask their clients' tax pros, but for whatever reason can't. Sometimes that reason is tax pros can unfortunately be unresponsive jerks, and I apologize for that. But we aim to fix that in Ask a CPA, teaching how to prepare tax-ready books, learning how to collaborate with tax pros, and we have a lot of fun while we're doing it. I also co-host the She Counts podcast, which is tagline is Real Talk for Women in Accounting, and you can learn more about that at shecounts.show. Blog, MSN column, yes, I dance, all sorts of very fun things. Sage, tell us who the heck you are.
Yeah, I actually have my own personal wedding coming up in October. I could use some dance lessons. So.
Oh my God, that's amazing! Although
Yes.
I do 1960s go-go dancing and 1980s fake jazzercise, so unless you're having a really unusual wedding, I'm guessing
Right,
I'm
I was going to say,
right
crazy enough,
you.
that's the exact theme for the wedding.
That is weird!
No. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to meet everyone. I'm Sage. I am a customer success manager at Double. I'm a scaled customer success manager at Double now. Been with Double for almost 3 years, which is amazing. It's been really cool to see the software continue to update and develop and meet so many customers all over the world. And I do a lot of onboardings. I do a lot of training and support calls, really just making sure customers get the most out of our software, answering feature questions, and just showing them how to use Double to reach their goals. I also am... It says I'm the face of the Double YouTube channel. I mean, there's a lot of faces on the YouTube channel, but I do create and edit and post a lot of videos for our Getting Started series, which we try to take a lot of the features in Double and crop them down into bite-sized pieces so you can watch them as many times as your heart desires to help you pick up our platform quickly. And like I mentioned, I also lead a lot of training and support calls and hopefully more webinars in the future to help all of you guys get the most out of Double. So really excited to be here and speak to what the feature looks like.
And I gotta say thank you because I really love those bite-sized sort of how-to things, and I wish more software did that. Right Tool is one of my favorite pieces of software, and they do that as well, and I love it. They've actually, in the where you can turn the features on or off, they actually have a little video explaining each one, and it's just so smart, and I love that Double does that as well. I wish ProConnect did because we converted this year, and I'm struggling. I'm on the struggle bus. I need Sage.
Yeah, and more videos hopefully to come on the YouTube channel as well. And if there's ever stuff that you guys would like to see, you can always reach out to us. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So why the heck are we doing this now? As you may have noticed, it is February 24th. That is not January. It's also not December or November. Like, why are we doing this after 1099 season is officially over? By the way, yay, right? Yay that it's over, because nobody likes January. It's just tough, yes. So the reason that we're doing it now is that I learned from my friend and mentor Tom Gorzinski years ago, the best time to evaluate how you're going to make changes for next tax season is when you're feeling the pain from the current tax season. And Double came up with this idea of doing the same thing about 1099s. And so you can think of this, I love what Elizabeth is saying in the chat, like you can think of this as less of a post-mortem and more of we're just really early for next year, right? We're just planning ahead for next year. So I want to know, let's be honest with each other, please, in the chat, give me one word that best summarizes how January went for you. One word that summarizes how January went for you. Oh, that's a good one, Terry. She
Better?
says
That's good.
better. Better is great. Hell, long, meh.
All sounds about
Oof.
right.
Actually, my best one yet. I like that. Smooth. The smooth is amazing. That is fantastic. Fire! Anna, I am so thrilled. So I don't know if that's fire, like I killed it, or like on fire, it's burning down behind me
Right.
and I ran out of the smoking room. Long hours, smooth. Okay, so a very, very mixed, a bit of both. Calamity. Oof. All
Calamity.
right. This is actually really helpful. It's very helpful to know like that there's a huge breadth of people in the room saying how it went. For me, I would say it was our best January yet, but it was still not enjoyable. Like to some extent, January is always going to be a challenge, but I was able to focus on the challenges where I really needed to be instead of chasing down W-9s and closing out books and that kind of thing. So it was way, way, way better for me than it has been. And last year was better than the year before, and last year was better than the year before. So incremental improvement. Johanna saying, Katie better say awesome since she started her new gig with me. You know what? That's a really good point. I feel like I should have Allie, who handles our 1099s. I should ask her what her one word is. We only had one client who was a pain in the butt, and it was my brother. And you know what are you going to do? It's your brother. Like you can't threaten them the way that you would threaten a regular client, or rather you can, but they won't listen to you. So. As we've talked about, improvement for next year should start when the pain is fresh. So I want to take a minute to start writing down the answers to these questions. I'm actually going to give you a full minute, which is going to feel like an hour to me and 8 seconds to you. But please pull up a text pad or Word doc, or if you have one of those old-fashioned like pieces of pen, paper and a pen, whatever, do that. I want you to start writing down. You're not going to have to share this in chat, but I really want you to start writing down what didn't work, where were the weak links, and this could be identifying 1099 eligible vendors. Was that your biggest problem? Or was it, there are so many different payment methods. So like what goes on a 1099K and therefore you don't have to issue NEC or MISC. So like calculating that spend, getting W-9s, or was it actually preparing and filing the forms or something else? So start making notes right now about what went wrong. And while you're doing that, think about how much impact each thing, like fixing each thing would make versus the time and money to fix them. So I'm going to give you a full minute, starting now. There are 2 people on this call who are not doing this. I can see you. Pull up your Word doc. Come on. We've got about 10 seconds left, so start scribbling those last thoughts. Okay, time. Now, that is not all the time I want you to spend on this project. That is to get you started. You now have a place where when this is over and you've thought through things and you've learned some tips and tricks, you can go back to that place and make some more notes. Then here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick the one thing that would have the most impact for the smallest amount of time and money to fix it. You do not have to fix all of these things. For us, this has been about a 6-year process of getting to the point where January I get to focus on the stuff that I need to focus on. 6 years, right? It wasn't overnight. We picked one thing one year, one thing the next year. Then we started using double and things got a lot easier. But still, each year we pick, and I learned that from Erica Hughes and Jody Strong, who do consulting with double implementation. They were like, pick the biggest thing, the lowest lift. I know, I love them too, Maddie. They're so amazing. They were just absolutely instrumental in getting our double implementation to be like where it was to where it is. Absolutely. All right, so that's how you're going to prioritize for next year. Next slide, please, Maddie. So the amazing Jennifer Diamond, who I do not know if she is in this call today or not, but I hope so because I just want to give her all the love in the world. She runs 1099problems.io. She is here. Hey, Diamond. She is amazing. We'll talk more about her solution later on. But she and I did a really cool presentation. Well, I mean, I thought it was really cool. A co-presentation at Scaling New Heights last year on basically making the 1099 process a better experience and converting it into a year-round methodology. And we took a poll in the room to figure out like what were the issues that people struggled with at 1099 time, specifically in January. Oh, thanks, Anna. Anna was in that session, and actually I took a picture of Diamond on stage going like this, but I took it from behind because I was also on stage, and you can see Anna sitting right there in the front row. So what we found out, these were the responses right here. What we found out was that over 60% of the issues are actually behavioral, believe it or not. It's getting W-9s from people and having clients not get W-9s from people or say, oh, we don't need to send them that, or they didn't do the things that they needed to do in order for you to close out their books so that because you actually need clean books in order to do this, right? And so instead of focusing this session on tax law, which is normally what I talk about when we're presenting about 1099s, I was like, no, let's talk a little bit more about vendor and client behavior, because what that means is that ultimately the biggest payoff for the lowest lift might be improving your client and vendor education and communication. So I thought that was a really valuable takeaway from me from teaching that session. Next slide, please, Maddie. But the thing is, that's not everything. That's not all of it. That just might be your lowest lift this year. 1099 challenges are also amplified by all the things you see on this slide: workflow problems, timing problems, visibility problems, a lack of reliable resources, hello chat GPT, and 1099s as a once a year task. If you are still tracking everything in spreadsheets, if you are still identifying the vendors and the eligible spend in January instead of throughout the year, that's another thing that can really exacerbate the already in existence challenges. Learning now how NEC and K, the 1099 that's for non-employee compensation, and the 1099K that is getting sent out for all of your merchant services and electronic payments, how are those related to each other? Because it's really important. And if you can get that education out of the way now, then you can be identifying them over the course of the year instead of trying to figure that out in January. Identifying eligible vendors can be error prone and really time consuming if you're doing it manually. Or if you're doing like we were back in the day, we were using a collection of reports from QuickBooks Online to try to figure that out. And it was really, really rough. A lack of reliable resources when AI cannot tell the difference between last year's rules and this year's rules, or what was proposed for next year. It cannot tell the difference. It's looking at everything that's ever been written on the internet that has to do with 1099s and guessing. And everyone on Facebook has a different answer. I know that. I've seen it myself. It was one of the reasons I started Ask a CPA. And if you're doing this once a year, 4 weeks, it's simply not enough time. And you probably
Mm.
have figured that out by now. Next
Yeah, that's
slide, Maddie.
that's something, Nancy. If I could say, like when
Yeah.
I'm talking to customers on training and support calls around 1099 season, and I explain, and we'll get into the demo later, but I explain to them, how it's going to work in double, and I ask them how often are they reviewing this, and they say once a year,
Yeah.
and then I ask how that usually goes. It's always, well, it was stressful, or it
You know,
was a lot worse than it would have been if I paid a bit more
Sage,
attention
it
to it
didn't
throughout
used to be this
the year.
hard. It didn't, it actually, I mean, it was worse back in the day because we were doing these things on paper and stuffing envelopes and running to the post office before midnight. Like, it was bad. But it's
Hmm.
bad in different ways now. And one of them is, you know, that deadline for the NECs. It's the end of January.
Hmm.
It did not used to be the end of January. We had until the end of February or the end of March, depending on what kind of filing we were doing. And the IRS was like, people are getting away with not reporting their freelance income. And they would get a refund, and then the 1099 would come in, and the IRS would be, oh, like, great, now we have to go claw back that refund, you know? So, Sage, I think that there's, I don't know, I'm guessing you've seen it changing such that people are sort of shifting to a year round.
Yeah, definitely shifting more towards a year round because I mean, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of things when everyone's taking the time to write down like what they would want to improve. There's a lot of things that we could fix, and I'm subject to this sometimes too. When I want to fix something, I write down everything and I try and attack everything all at once. When in reality, just picking like one or two like small like easy lift things that we can do consistently is really going to set ourselves up for success in January time. And that's why looking at the report, which we'll get to later, on a monthly basis, just a little bit here or there, is really going to make life a lot easier. And the more you do it, the more comfortable,
Totally.
the more things you can start to check off that list. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, 1099s should not be this hard, but they are. And there was this sweet spot where we still had the later due date because everything was reported on the 1099 MISC. There was no NEC. That's a relatively new form. Um, and so while it was hard in some ways back then, we had a longer period of time to do it. And the biggest thing, we didn't have all these different payment methods. That's one of the things on this list is like, how the heck do you figure out if somebody, like, you used a credit card to fund a service that then sends out a manual check? You know what I mean? Like, is that going to show up on the 1099K, or is that going to something that you have to issue a 1099 NEC for? We did not have to do any of that back in the day. So as a result, it has gotten harder and harder and harder. And so if you are dealing with some of these issues that are on this slide, which Diamond is saying she can't see that GIF without thinking of me, and 1099s should not be this hard. They shouldn't be this hard. Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, Venmo. Don't even get me started on Venmo. Although one of the good things is that Diamond's resource, 1099problems.io, which I'll talk about a little bit more later, I think she has all the Venmo stuff is on the free version. So if you've got specific Venmo questions, you can go there like right now and figure out, okay, if I use Venmo this way, if I use Venmo that way, like, because if it shows up on a 1099K, you don't have to issue a 1099 NEC for it. So yes, they should not be this hard. And Maddie, next slide. With double, they don't have to be. Yay! Just one example, which is the quote that they received that is on this screen here. By the way, that's not me in a hammock. We don't live on the beach. We are in Mexico, but we're in a city, and I wish we were on the beach, and I want that to be me right now.
That's how I picture you doing all of this work.
Yeah,
Mexico.
you know what? I often do work from a hammock, but it's a hammock that's hanging inside my house. So it's
Yeah.
just because,
Yeah, Maddie says there's a hammock literally right behind you too. So
yeah, there is. Yeah, it's true. But it's not on a beach. It's not on a beach. But I am doing a lot of this stuff from a hammock because of this quote right here. One example of how it does not have to be as painful as it seems based on that like slide with a long list. Stop trying to make your clients do something they hate and don't understand, which is collecting W-9s from their vendors. If you take this off of their to-do list and use Double to request the W-9s directly from the vendors, this has been huge for us. It is much easier and it has improved our lives a ton. Both clients and vendors prefer it, we charge for it, and we do it as part of each month-end close. So you're not trying to chase down a vendor that was potentially paid a year beforehand who's like, what? I didn't think I was going to have to report that income. As if there's any income you don't have to report. Anyway, Sage, you have actually seen how this can help you get new clients.
Yes,
I want to hear about that.
So I'm smiling because just how passionate you are about about everything that you're talking about. Yeah, so and something that we'll show when we get into the demo too. But when we're requesting W-9s from vendors through Double, we're also going to be able to market and like advertise your business in the portal that we're going to direct these vendors to. So it's a really nice way to incorporate a link like PS, hey, need a bookkeeper or want to learn more about our services, click here. It can direct you to a website that you link out there or some separate page that you want them to see to show them all about your services. And I've had a few clients that I've worked with, and also just from other CSMs that I've worked with other clients too, that have gotten some business just from that link as well. So just a really great way to advertise.
Is there anybody who's attending today who like uses Double and has gotten business from sending that link out? Because there are a lot of people who I've talked to from Ask a CPA and from Bookkeeping Buds who have done exactly what you've just mentioned. Nicole has a really great canny request, which is, can Double please make a template question in the Prepare 1099s area that is, please upload a W-9 or provide the email address instead of one or the other. I like that. That is super, super, super great idea. Awesome.
Yeah, we can definitely make sure that gets in front of the right people.
Yes.
Add all the votes that we can to it for you.
Now, one thing I do want to mention about this is I understand there are probably some people here who are looking at me saying, or they're looking at this slide and they're hearing me saying, hey, do more work for your clients, which just like sounds awful, right? Like, oh, great, now I'm responsible for collecting all the W-9s also, right? It sounds awful, but actually it will save you headache in the future. And the clients so don't want to do this that you can charge for it. Like you can charge nicely for it. It's part of our monthly, it's part of the monthly work we do, and they don't get to pick. We're just like, this is what a monthly close looks like. We are going to also request these W-9s. So keep that in mind. It may seem like you're taking on more work, but you're going to get paid for that work, and it's actually going to make your life easier in the future as well as the client. So it's a win-win. Yeah, and I agree with everything that's being said in the chat. Next slide, please. So here are some free resources to help you get there. We got you covered on how to stay updated on the 1099 fundamentals moving forward. There is a guide that I actually co-authored with Maddie from Double that is free. That is just like here's what you need to know about 1099s. I also have an article on MSN that I update every year, and with the help of many amazing people from Ask a CPA and Bookkeeping Buds, I want to make sure I give them a shout out here. And of course, Diamond always reviews that for me. We have a free one-page bookkeeper's guide to annual reviews. Now, members of Ask a CPA get a two-page version of it and a whole walkthrough from me, and they can ask questions about it in our community and all of that. But even just this one-pager on its own is, in my opinion, gold, because you can take this checklist for doing a review on the books to make sure that they're tax ready, and you can actually enter it into Double for each one of your clients and make it your year-end review, which is exactly what we do. You can have questions of what you need to collect from the clients automatically sent out from the portal each year. It really works beautifully. And then there's Diamond's incredible payment method guide. Now she's got a free version and a pro version. The free version is basically like a taste of what's to come. There are like, I think 13 of the payment methods that, it shows you how you can navigate them. I think she's got all the Venmo ones on there. And then the pro version has like, I think over 80 different payment methods. And you're like, does this go on a 1099K or do I have to issue a 1099 NEC or MISC? I don't know. And she's gone so far into the weeds on this one. I'm just shocked that she's ever come back. And Ask a CPA members get 10.99%, very cute, off their first order. And she was generous enough to let me share our code with everybody in here. This is not an affiliate link. This is just a discount code, Dancing1099. If you decide you want to sign up for her, very affordable. I don't remember exactly how much it costs, but it is very, very, very affordable and totally worth it and a big part of our process. And then Double has a Prepared 1099s help center that is hugely helpful. Sage, did you have something to do with creating that help center, or because it's high, very high quality. It's excellent.
I personally was not the mastermind behind creating that help center, but I know our internal support team, whether that's Grace, but also just a lot of hands on deck to make those articles look and feel the way that they should, the screenshots, the videos. So it's definitely a team effort.
It's really fantastic. Next slide, Maddie, please. So in addition to the free resources, there are paid resources to make 1099s easier as well. And what I actually ended up doing, I was thinking about why 1099 season used to be so awful for us and where it's still hard. And I took that list on the other page and I sorted it into each of the solutions that we ended up using to make it easier. And to be fair, I am not going to blow sunshine up anywhere for anyone. It is still not easy. There are new rules every year. There are new payment methods every year. It will always be complex, but it doesn't have to suck, right? There's a difference there. And part of it is just making sure that you're using tools and resources that help with the sucky parts. And part of it is making sure that you're not doing it all in 1 month, as Sage and I keep talking about. Even before we switched to Double, we actually, a few years before that, changed it to be part of our monthly close, and that made a really big difference. Of course, the instructions internally to run and review our QuickBooks Online report were 4 pages long. So it was still really manual and a real pain in the butt, but it still made a major life difference to be doing it through the course of the year instead of waiting until January. And the last bit of it is managing the client and vendor communication and education so that those behavioral issues that I talked about at the beginning, they don't outweigh everything else. Because it's one thing to be dealing with the stuff that's actually hard and complicated, and it's another thing to be doing that while you've got confused, angry, and unresponsive people to deal with. So Double, you can actually do all of these things that I've listed on this slide. You can determine and track which clients want 1099 prep. Hughes and Strong actually gave me the tip for that. I mentioned them earlier. They have a method that we use inside Double to determine and track which clients want this. You can make it monthly to collect the W-9s because Double will identify those vendors for you each time it pops up. Determining the vendor entity types, especially when people have got the LLCs with the corporate election, whether it's an S Corp or not. If we take over the W-9 collection and we're getting those every month, we can actually review them and go, oh no, this person actually, this company that the client didn't think was gonna need one because they think LLC means corporation, or vice versa. They think LLC means that they should get a 1099, but they don't realize they have an S Corp election. That's something you can be in charge of doing because you have the knowledge that you need in order to interpret that W-9 correctly. Missing 1099 spend sitting in an unusual account used to mess us up all the time in QuickBooks. It just messed us up all the time. Sage, I think this is one of the things, aside from the W-9 collection directly from the vendor, I would say this is the other thing that Double just does better Actually, wait, I've got one other thing that Double does so awesome. Once you checkmark someone or dismiss a particular company as not being 1099 eligible,
Mm-hmm.
you never see them again, which is really
Right.
nice. Like that. So those are probably the three things that I
Right.
think that Double does the that make this like the biggest impact. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. Being able to mark whether they need a 1099 or not makes the list that you're reviewing on a monthly basis, right? If we create the habit to look at it on a monthly
It's only
basis,
the
is
new
what
ones.
we, right? It's only
Yeah.
the new ones, and if which we'll get into soon, very shortly. But as we start to update all the information, like Nancy's talking about, and doing a lot of these things on this main slide, it's our hope is that you see too how stress free this process can start to become. So yeah, it can all
Absolutely.
be really, really valuable.
Now, I've referred to 1099problems.io a couple of times. This is what we use. I mean, there's no other program out there that does it. It's literally, it's not just best in class, it is only in class. It is the only resource out there that does this because Diamond's a little bit crazy and obsessive, and she figures it all out for every single one of these instead of like having to call Chase and asking if Zelle, which Chad literally did. Chad Hughes, who works for Double. Do you know that story, Sage? He actually called Chase to ask, does Zelle issue a 1099K or not? And they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, Diamond figures out which payment rails require 1099K, which ones require you to actually issue one yourself. So it is. Oh, she says it exists because friends don't let friends waste time on 1099. Oh, so cute. Thank you for not making me waste time on it. So that is what we use for that, and it's just been a huge difference for us. Then you've got Track 1099 and Tax 1099. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Double actually has exports for both of them. Do you have other ones in addition to those?
We actually recently added one for eFile for Biz as well.
Okay.
And then you could also just export as a regular CSV for any of the options that we don't have directly. So
That's
track
a good point.
1099, tax 1099, eFile for Biz, and then just a regular CSV export.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. Like it works beautifully. So you figure all this stuff out for those who don't know what we're talking about here. You figure all this stuff out in Double, and then you export. And let's say you decide you're going to export to Track 1099, which is what we use. You pick that, or if you use Tax 1099, which I know is equally amazing, you get a CSV file that is formatted to be imported into that software, and it prepares all of your 1099s for you like magic. Like it's truly amazing. And then you can e-file for each vendor whenever you want. And if there are more vendors that, not just your client, but each vendor. So let's say you've got like my brother who's kind of a pain in the butt about this stuff, and we had some of the W-9s, but not all of them. We e-filed those and waited for the other ones to come in and then e-filed those. And it works seamlessly. That the export import is beautiful. And then there are a couple of things that are still a pain, that are always going to be a pain, which is one of the many reasons that I started Ask a CPA. When you're trying to figure out who paid for the service because you've got a bunch of due to from accounts and related companies, or a management company that's issuing them, and you're not really sure who's responsible for issuing the 1099s, can be super complicated. Defining what constitutes a service is weirdly difficult. Like, is it a subscription or is it consulting? Is it a grant or is it the services you're providing? And then dealing with vendors who refuse to fill out a W-9, we've got default lingo that we use for that references, um, you know, IRS code sections, and is just like, hey, we don't want you to get audited because we're going to file a 1099 anyway and say that you refuse to give us your TIN. So let's make that happen. So there are a lot of questions where you just have case by case. I don't know how to handle this, and you post them in Ask a CPA and we answer them. Next slide, Maddie. All right. So this is all well and good, but how do you actually make it happen? Sage, do you have any clue on how this works? I bet you do.
Yeah, I think I have a couple clues
A
here
couple
or there.
clues?
Yeah, just a couple clues here or there. So the big idea that Nancy and I are continuing to reiterate is we want this to become more of a year-round system than we are just sprinting towards the finish line come like December, January time. So our report is going to do a bunch of really cool things, which we'll get into in a demo in just a moment. But things like being able to identify the vendors that meet the 1099 thresholds, being able to collect those W-9s from either the client or the vendors directly, monitoring the year-to-date spend, being able to update information in Double that syncs back into the ledger as well, and trying our best to consolidate where you can do all of that work. So that way, when it comes time for January, there are fewer surprises, cleaner books, better client conversations, and maybe you guys too can lay in a hammock somewhere on the beach,
Yeah.
like Nancy is doing. Right.
I mean,
Just rubbing it all in our faces.
I
she's on the
will
beach
mention that it's not like this happened overnight. We made
I know.
incremental change. We made sure it was a year-round 1099 review. Then we made sure that we doubled down on client. I bet you guys never have heard that one before. On client education and communication. Like, that was really, really important for us. Double's W-9 request feature was huge for us. And then another thing I want to mention, we actually used Double to have default language for our bookkeeping team to use with trouble vendors, so that the bookkeeping team doesn't have to have those conversations with the vendors, the ones who don't want to give you a W-9. But it also means I don't have to have those conversations with them either, because we can template that and we can put that into our communications center. So that is another way that Double fits in to the changes that we've made over time.
Absolutely. And then this slide, I think this is the last slide before I jump into the demo itself, but I think just to give a quick, again, visual, the first step is we're going to identify all the vendors, right, that have met the threshold. The next step would be to request that W-9 from clients or vendors and update information as you receive it from the client and the vendor, which would sync back to the ledger. And then, of course, being able to export it or upload it directly to your ledger so you can file it as needed. So these are going to be the 3 steps, and we'll dive into a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we should be able to dive right in. So can you guys confirm, either Nancy or Maddie, you want to just let me know if you can see what I see?
Sure do.
All right, beautiful.
Looks perfect.
Awesome. So hello again, everyone. So before we actually dive into the Prepare 1099 report itself, I want to just spend a moment to talk about the page that the report lives on, and hopefully that can create some additional context as to some of the value you can really get out of Double. So right now what we are looking at is called the close page. Now the close page you can think of like a ledger integrated checklist. It's where all of the tasks for your month-end review are going to live, as well as the tasks that need to get done but aren't necessarily tied to the month-end review. Maybe that's payroll or quarterly sales tax, or maybe annual items that you need to do every single year. So again, this is what we call the close page. Every single client is going to have one. And as I start to scroll through here, you're going to see all of these different sections where tasks are going to live. And your monthly close tasks are those bread and butter items, the things that repeat every single month. So things like making sure that you've cleared through the bank feed, making sure that you've reconciled your accounts and collected the appropriate bank statements or reconciliation reports. We're going to have a section that focuses on transaction review, right? Being able to call attention to any coding errors or inconsistencies that might live in the ledger. So reports
and Sage, I'm going to interrupt for a second
please,
to say,
please.
that is why we actually started using Double. We did not start using Double for the client portal. We didn't start using it for the W-9 collection. We were trying to we only have one senior accountant. And so sometimes she's a bottleneck. I wish I could clone her, but I can't. And this seemed easier than cloning her, which was that I wanted this transaction review section. I wanted for the junior team to be able to do this kind of analysis and fixing and identifying, so that it wasn't going to get all the way to her when she was doing her quarterly review. And
absolutely,
this is why we went with Double, and then it was like, oh, it can do all these other things too. That's super cool.
Right. And there's a lot of firms too, I'm sure we'll get to it in just a second, that start using Double just for the 1099 report and then realize that you can use it for all of the other things too. So
my friend Melissa Miller Ferguson, who now is actually the person in Jason Statz's group, Realize, she leads the Double user group, which is amazing. But when she first started with Double, I feel like she was with Double for a year and a half or 2 years just for the 1099 feature. And then, you know, one at a time started using the other features.
Right. Yeah, so like we were saying, right, the transaction view has a ton of reports that'll help you catch those coding errors and inconsistencies. And all of these reports make it really, really easy to be able to ask client questions, upload them to a portal that's going to look and feel like an extension of your business. Clients can respond to those questions, and all of that feedback we will collect for you so you can very, very easily update it in Double, which will sync back into your ledger. And that's a big thing to remember. We have a bidirectional relationship with the QBO and Zero ledger. So as you update transactions in Double in real time, that information is going to sync back into the ledger. So a ton of really valuable stuff that you can do on the close page. But the 1099 report lives just a little bit further down in the payee and entity review section. Now, the prepared 1099 report by default is a part of our monthly close tasks. So it will show up here every single month as a reminder for you to go in and create these positive habits. That way, January, you were also lying in a hammock somewhere by the beach. So the prepared 1090 report, if I go ahead and click on it, this is what it looks like. It is a report that by default is going to show you all of the vendors that have met the 1099 threshold, excluding credit card spend, which is super, super valuable. It does a lot of that heavy lifting for you. And if at any time you want to view all vendors, or maybe you want to disable the credit card exclusion, you can definitely do that. And if you have any interest in understanding how we got to this year-to-date spend, on the left-hand side of every single vendor, you're going to be able to click into this dropdown and view those included transactions, as well as make any exclusions that might be necessary. So it's something super helpful, all at the power of your fingertips, right? Now, being able to update the information in Double, like the vendor name, the legal name, email, tax ID, as well as their address, is something we can also do, all of which will sync back into your ledger. Now, when we're looking at this report, you're going to notice right here in the middle, there's two tabs that say for review and then 1099 not needed. Now, one of the things I would recommend that we start with is every single month just spending a few moments, whoever's going to be the one assigned to this task, is going through and just marking which of these vendors actually need 1099s to be filed. Is it yes, no, or are we unsure? And as we start to update this list, Nancy was mentioning, right, once you select no, so for example, if we didn't need to file a 1099 for a particular vendor, marking one as no is going to move it to this the 1099 not needed list. And it's going to
And
make your
actually,
full
that's
review.
amazing because part of it that I love is that it disappears and we don't have to review it again the next month, right?
Right,
But
right.
part of it is that it also doesn't disappear, right? Like you can
Right.
go to the 1099 not needed list and go, oh, that's right. It's that guy or whatever.
Right. And let's say you mark no, right? You can also leave additional notes or context as to why we did it, or if we're unsure, why we're unsure. So all of that information is going to be stored here for you to review throughout that year. And what we're left with is what we need to request W-9s for. And as we start to mark yes for any of them, so here you can see I marked yes for this example vendor, we're going to be able to choose what filing type, right? We can also choose what entity type it is. And once this information is ready to go, all that's left is requesting it from the client or from the vendor. So you're going to see that we can request W-9s either from the client or from the vendor. And it's really, really straightforward. So what we'll do is we would click to reach out to the client, and you can ask them, hey, can I please have the W-9? Or if you want to reach out to the vendor on their behalf, hey, do you mind sharing the email of that vendor so I can reach out to them for you and collect this information? So the client can respond appropriately. And once you've updated the vendor with the
And
email.
that's what Nicole was talking about earlier for those who, you know, aren't using Double. That's the canny that she was talking about, where she's saying she
I
wants
see,
something
yes.
that says that asks either or instead of you having to
Right.
send one or the other. I think that's what she was
Yeah,
referring to.
like a third option could be a good idea. A quick
For both.
workaround could be you can always type into the box itself and add additional context.
Yeah,
if
there
you'd
was
like.
somebody in chat who said that they just manually
Mentioned that.
edit every single one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine in the future more ways to edit these templates and provide some more options. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
good
it would
calling
be
out
great.
there.
So if you are a Double user, please upvote that one.
Yep. But like I was saying, right, being able to reach out to the client for the email for the vendor, once you've updated that information on the vendor email slot in Double, you then have the option to request the W-9 directly from the vendor, right? So this is what it looks like when you reach out to one from scratch. You have the option to email the vendor. You can even CC the client contacts. You can CC internal team members as well, and you can create this request. And when you send this to the vendor, they're going to receive a branded email that looks just like this. So, hi there, it would insert, the name of your firm. We work with X client to collect a W-9. Here is a link that you can click on. And this would be a branded link that's going to take them to a portal that will feel like an extension of the business. And the vendor, when they get here, there's really only one or two things that they can do. They can either upload the W-9 by dragging and dropping the file here, or they're going to click here to fill one out virtually. So we make it super, super easy for them. And earlier, when we were talking about how you can market and advertise your business, you also have an option in the bottom left to include a link in case you want to share that with anyone. So
I just love how this looks on the vendor side. It's just so clean and easy and straightforward.
yeah, super, super easy. Very difficult to get lost here when you are
Yeah.
when you're directed here, right? Which is also important to think about. So
Yeah.
So now let's assume they have uploaded the W-9 either by filling out the form or uploading the document. You are now back in Double going to see under the actions column in this same report any of the W-9s that have been uploaded. Alternatively, if the W-9 already existed in QBO, you would also see that we pull that information here as well. You can upload it directly to QBO if the vendor uploaded it through Double. And it's all stored here for you to be able to review. You can even open up the W-9s and review the information. We can auto-fill in some of these slots. So it just makes the process so, so, so much easier. And then just making sure that you mark it as yes, right? That way we know that information for later on. So that's how we would request it from the client or from the vendor. But there are some other cool things that I want to speak to as well. So one other thing I want to call attention to would be, what if you have other types of 1099s? So for example, if you have to deliver 1099 INTs or 1099 DIVs, there's another report in Double that you're going to be able to create called the custom 1099 report.
And can I just say that I was using Double before this started, and I was like wagging my finger at y'all saying, you have to have a way to do other 1099s. And wow, did you show me? You were like,
There you
oh,
go.
yeah?
There you go. Just goes
Yeah.
to show if you wag your finger enough.
It's
You know.
true. You guys
So
listen.
yes. So the 1099 report, the custom 1099 report, truly functions very, very similarly. But the key differences is, unlike the regular 1099 report, which we were just talking about, you're going to be able to customize the dollar threshold, which is super helpful. So that will affect the amount of vendors that you are looking to review. But you can also edit the report filters and actually include specific accounts that you want to show up on this list. And you will notice that the same entity type drop option is here. You're just going to have the same options that you had before, but also for the filing type, there's just so many more that you can select from. But the same way that you can request W-9s from the client, the same way you can request W-9s from the vendor, all of that flow and functionality is going to be the same. And this report, like I mentioned, will continue to show up every single month. And if we spend a few minutes on it here or there, it will make January so much more smooth. So a lot more that I'm sure I could talk about, but I want to make sure we have time for some questions for the W-9s or for the 1099. So I'll pass it back to you, Nancy, and to you, Maddie.
Well, Sage, that was fantastic. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Honestly, I cannot even begin to express what a huge difference using Double has made in our experience. Again, part of it came about before Double because we were identifying what the pain points were and trying to address each one of them. And then you guys just took it from like 30% to 90%. It was absolutely, and that wasn't even what we were looking for. So I would love to take it to Q&A. Let me see. Sarah's got a question for you. So the extra 1099 report, is that how you recommend handling it if the vendor needs more than one 1099 type?
Yeah, so that report would be a good option. You just, like you saw earlier, and I can always go back to sharing my screen if I need to, but a lot more options to choose for the 1099 type. So
And
that could
that
be
happens
a
with
good way
us
to go
a
about doing it.
ton. Like we have regularly, and actually when I'm teaching and Ask a CPA, one of the things that I mention is people often forget about 1099-INT for small, closely held companies that have given their own company a loan, right? You have to charge interest on that. And one of the things we teach is how do you calculate what percentage interest rate that needs to be. And then you have to issue 1099s for that to the owner. Another one we see forgotten regularly is if you've got a C Corp and they spent money on something personally and it got booked as a distribution instead of a loan, that can cause serious problems because with a C Corp, that becomes a taxable dividend. And now you have to issue a 1099-DIV with cooperatives that I do a lot of work with. You have to issue 1099-PATR, patronage, to the potentially many owners of a cooperative. So being able to do all of that, figure out all of that in double before you're actually doing the export to your 1099 software is gold.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Sarah mentions that she had one this year where the vendor needed both a MISC for rent and an NEC. Very common, super common. That happens a lot. So yeah, that's exactly where you would do it.
Yep. And
So
then
if
Nicole, looks like Nicole also had a question.
Yeah. She says if we are newish
Yeah.
to double, will information that is already in QBO be pulled into double? Or do we need to do a full review to get started and then maintain from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. You definitely don't need to do a full diagnostic review in QBO first, because once you connect a client to Double, we're connecting to your ledger, so there's already data that we're going to pull in for you. So for example, if there already was an email on file for the vendor, or if you had the address or EIN number and some of that information already lived in QBO or in the ledger, we'll pull that into Double. If you've already marked whether they need a 1099 or not, that's also information that we're going to pull. So no, you do not need to do a full diagnostic. There will be
As
information
a matter of
that
fact,
is
I'm,
already
I'm going to
available to you.
recommend that you don't, because it's
Right.
very important to know that this is a two-way sync. And it
Right.
actually is seamless. I know most vendors say that they have a seamless sync, and they're not. Doubles is actually a seamless sync. And so I recommend that when you get a client and it's a mess in QBO, connect them as soon as possible to Double, because Double will help you clean that up. Not just with the 1099s, but with all of the rest of it. So I would recommend don't do your cleanup first. Let Double do
Right.
some of the heavy lifting on there. Yeah.
Right. And if there wasn't information like you were saying in QBO, and you connected him to Double, and you saw in the 1099 report it was missing, just update it in Double, and then it
Yeah.
goes back to QBO. So
Yeah. Now, Molly's asking, is there a way for the client to see what vendors we have or need 1099s for? Right now, we export the list, putting it in a Google Sheet. I don't personally, I think this is a two-part answer for me and for Sage. We don't bother to let them know who we need who we need a W-9 for, because we're collecting the W-9s from those vendors directly. And basically, I'm saying, look, the responsibility for identifying those vendors and identifying which spend for those vendors is applicable and needs a 1099 MISC or NEC or whatever, that's my job. That's not the client's job. So I don't even tell them, here's who we're going to issue 1099s to. We do them and then we send them their copies and say, these are done. Sage, if
yeah.
somebody did want for the client to see what vendors we have or need, I think she's saying W-9s for, or which ones they're planning on doing 1099s for, and which of those they've got W-9s for. Is there a way to do that in Double?
So there's very creative ways to go about sharing that information. There isn't an innate way in the portal for some client to see these are all the vendors that you're planning on reaching out to. But if I just share my screen and I go back to the report, hopefully you guys can see it again, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Looks
beautiful.
great.
So let's just pretend, right, we wanted to share this list with our clients and let them know of the vendors that we're requesting W-9s for, assuming that we've gone through and we've updated this for review list with yes or unknown, and everyone that's no, you've moved to not needed. You can always export this, right? And that could be something that you share with the client, maybe as a file that lives in the portal, or if you wanted to send it to them as a separate email, that's always an option, but you can always upload documents in the portal and make that visible to the client. And there are other ways in the portal to include some helpful information, whether that is in like the resources section is always a great place to include, any additional context or updates for the client. But I think downloading it as a CSV and just sharing it as a file could be a really easy way to do that for the client.
Yeah, definitely. And Molly's saying, thanks. Yeah, there's just address changes there that I lost my chat. But anyway, thank you, Molly. I appreciate it. It's great. It's great to have double users, in a mixed group of double users and of non-double users in the chat. Some people are asking questions, some people are answering questions. It's fantastic. Well, everybody, please make sure you download that free annual review checklist if you're not already an Ask a CPA member. If you would like to become a member, please, once you get to that freebie, it's actually living on my dancingaccountant.com website. And so you can just move over to the tab that says Ask a CPA and sign up there, or you can move over to the tab that says Contact, and you'll see there are a bunch of little logos about where you can find me. You can follow my MSN column, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, you can subscribe to the She Counts podcast, all sorts of different, my YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. It's all in there in the Contact tab. There is one more question, and I'm just going to see if we can sneak this in. When you're doing all the 1099 work all year long, I understand that you include that in your monthly pricing. Do you also have any extra charges at the time of filing once you know how many there will be? Yes. Yes, that is a great question, Sarah, because to me, those are two different engagements. Whether we're preparing the 1099s for that client or not, we are working the identification of the vendors. We're doing that on a monthly basis. Even if we're not preparing their 1099s, we're still going to identify those vendors and request those W-9s throughout the course of the year. So I work that into the monthly pricing. And then once a year we say, hey, using the Hughes and Strong thing that they have set up for us in Double, we say, hey, do you want us to prepare your 1099s for you? Here's the pricing on that. And then we have a per form charge. So they're two, for us, they're two different things. You could structure it however you like, but that's what's worked out for us. Maddie, hi. We missed you.
Hello again. What a wonderful session, you guys. Thank you so much to Sage and Nancy for all the insights. I learned a lot, and I hope that everybody else did as well. We have a quick question from Wendy about how we do our pricing. I can quickly tackle that really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wendy, we have a flexible per client pricing model. So we have 3 different pricing tiers. We have Core, Plus, and Scale. All of the features that we just showcased in Sage's demo, those live in the Core package.
Which is one of the things I really appreciate, because QuickBooks Online started to get really expensive when they were moving, and they kept doing this. They were like, 1099 capabilities used to be in the lowest level, and then they moved it to the next level, and then they moved it to the next level. So yeah. I really, truly appreciate that this is in your core pricing, because somebody could afford to only use Double for this feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And with those Plus and Scale pricing tiers as well, those are going to be for more of your complex clients. But if you only have a few of those clients, you don't have to move everybody up to that higher tier in order to serve your client base. So if you have any more questions about that, please reach out to sales@doublehq.com and we can get you more information. But I just wanted to thank you, Nancy and Sage, for your time. I'm so appreciative of you both and all of your insights and wisdom. So as a reminder,
we love working with you. Thank you so much for having us here. Truly, truly, truly love it. Oh, Joanna said something wonderful. She said they could afford to get it for 1099s only, but once they use it, like Melissa Miller-Ferguson, they will quickly use all of it and become an expert in it like she is. Yes. So
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys. We will send out a follow-up email with all of the resources that Nancy mentioned, as well as the recording. So if you want to share it with any members of your team. But yeah, we're going to wrap for today. Thank you guys all so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your February.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and for all the activity in the chat. We appreciate you so much. I hope your February, last few days of it, is better than the last few days of your January.
That's right. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.